Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house in the middle of our
We're on, Dorothy, now. Okay, we're on. People, we're talking before you started. We get
Yes, you're throwing me off.
We love to get thrown off. It's become very casual here.
Keeping me on my toes is what you're doing.
You know, it's dumb luck that we have a show this morning, being July 4th weekend. Bill Dunlop, who's a friend of mine, who has been a past guest on the show. Bill is with the Moore County Environmental Health Department, and he's been on the show many times in the past when we've spoken about septic systems. But as I've gotten to know Bill, and when his dad passed away, he was on a Father's Day show, and we're pretty close in age, and you know, we tend to maybe see the world sometimes through a similar set of eyes. So he's always a welcome guest. And Bill, I'm glad you could you set the show up this morning. Good morning.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's good to be back again. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and his volume's a little low, Dorothy, right? Yeah, I think so for sure.
Okay.
That's why we get to wear these headphones. You had reached out to me. You know, being July 4th weekend. Obviously, it would be a good idea to have a show with a theme about our servicemen. With the changing demographics in Moore County, so many things are happening. But I have to tell you, before you introduce the guests, I am overwhelmed and overstimulated these days by all the information that's available to us on the news, on Facebook, social media. Sometimes it's so hard to get a focus on a topic. In the political season we're in, it's so dysfunctional. There's so much criticism and unhappiness and discontent with things like the economy, the VA, the medical benefits. Everything gets sort of like thrown into a bowl, and it's like a potpourri, and it's so hard to focus.
Well, it is. You've got so many things to concentrate on right now in the news, and many of them are just it's this group against that group, with no real focus on fixing anything. It's just simply why we disagree and
bitching
why we
and complaining.
hate each other.
Right.
And what we need to do is find some common ground,
right,
and to work on a problem that we might see needs some work.
Do you remember, you and I, we grew up in the 50s and the 60s and 70s. Do you remember a time when there was so much, people always say, oh, I've never seen things so crazy in the news or crazy in the world. But have you ever, is it not overwhelming right now?
Well, it is, but up until about the middle 60s or so, things were a little more focused, a little more common to the concerns of the common man and so forth. But in the 60s, when the Vietnam War came along, and we had that was the first real time of political insurrection,
right,
of which I was part of at that time,
right.
And it has only gotten worse since then.
You were a veteran?
No.
Okay.
No, I was part of the insurrection.
But you were a student of the 60s?
Yes, I was.
Okay. You've got you brought another generation of young men on the show today to talk about Operation Frontline Recovery.
Yes.
I noticed a couple of weeks ago in the pilot, the June 15th edition, there was a headline, Pair Launch, the Therapeutic Gardening Plan, and veterans sowing seeds of recovery. Tell me a little bit about Operation Frontline Recovery and how you are involved with the gentlemen that are here at the table.
All right. Operation Frontline Recovery, and I'll let our two guests speak to it in much more detail than I possibly could.
Right.
Is a program working with either veterans or even active duty service members. And they have a very unique, Operation Frontline Recovery has a very unique approach to how they're trying to offer some help to these fellows and ladies too. And we have Stone Hazlett and Christopher Hurley here from Operation Frontline Recovery. Good morning, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Good morning, sir.
Certainly. And just part of openness on the program. Christopher is my nephew, so that's how I knew about this particular project.
You know what? In speaking with him this morning, I could get the intonation of his voice and the intonation of your voice. There's a similarity, for sure. So your mother is Bill's sister?
Right.
Is that the relation?
My mom is his younger sister.
Yeah. So he is now the patriarch of the family, so to speak? Bill is?
Every bit of it. Every bit of it.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a big family?
It's not huge, but it's a decent size.
But it's intense.
Extremely.
Yeah,
extremely.
It's very intense.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. And you, let's talk a little bit about both of you, just your backgrounds. Your parents are from North Carolina, but you have moved back here from Georgia?
Right. My dad's from Jackson Springs, North Carolina.
Okay.
My mom's from Pinehurst.
Okay.
My dad was in the Air Force. He was a veteran in the Air Force for a while, and he had moved to Atlanta to take a job with Eastern Airlines. At the same time, was still in the National Guard with Dobbins Air Force Base, and that's how I ended up being down there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, I moved back up in this area to be closer to family and to help out with my grandfather that wasn't feeling well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm a Georgia boy down that way, but all my family is up here.
Don't hold it against him.
No. Are you married?
Yes, I am.
You have children? You have family?
Yes, I have 3 kids. I have Mackenzie that's 12, Connor that's 9, and Aiden that is 5 months.
How long was your term of service?
Just over 8 years.
And so you are now retired from the
medically, yes, sir.
Okay. We were talking a little bit before the show, and Stone, I'm going to introduce you in just a second, but we were talking about Dr. Alan Marshall from the Sandhills Classical Christian School. Bill, you might not know this. He's launching a pilot called NC Valor, and it's going to be a show where he is going to feature different veterans.
Okay.
He taped a pilot, and his first guest was an 89-year-old Navy SEAL who had a twin brother, and they were separated at birth. And they rediscovered each other while they competed against each other in high school football. This is a true story. And the gentleman wrote a book about it. And they both enlisted at the same time. And being twins, one of the twins had bad eyesight. So the other brother substituted for him so that they would pass the test. And the book and the story can be heard when the pilot is aired. It was fascinating. But, Christopher, Moore County is comprised of a lot of veterans from different generations right now. There's so many different generations of service men who live here.
No, absolutely. A lot of that I saw, too, is when I was stationed at Fort Bragg, we would have All-American Week. And All-American Week was basically, for a lot of time, it really brought anybody from the Special Operations side of things all the way to the 82nd Airborne, anybody that was really at Fort Bragg, it brought everybody together. And what really surprised me was the amount of World War II veterans and Korean veterans and everything else. And it didn't matter their age. It didn't matter if they were 18 years old. It didn't matter if they were 80 years old. When everybody got together, instantly there was a common ground.
Right.
And we recognized each other, and you could sit there for days. I mean, you could sit there for absolute days and listen to the stories these old war horses had. And they needed it as much as we needed it. Because it doesn't matter what age you are. If you've worn the uniform and you've chewed on that same dirt, then it's a brotherhood that's always going to be needed.
Well said. Well said. Stone, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
How'd you two guys hook up?
Well, kind of funny story. I woke up one day and realized that I wanted to garden. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't want to do it for a while, but I went down to Tractor Supply and
Okay.
Was looking around, a little bit lost. I think Chris could probably say that.
A little bit.
A little
No,
bit.
Not bad.
And so I was looking around, and I just started asking questions to a different individual. She was the manager, Jen. And she said, there's a gentleman that can help me a lot better than she could. And she pointed at Chris. Chris came over, and we started walking around, and then we sort of both recognized that we had common ground, just like Chris was saying. And we picked right up on the fact that we were both veterans.
Are you active still?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
How long have you been in service?
About 7 years.
And are you from Moore County, from North Carolina? Where are
No,
you from?
sir. I'm a creature of a lot of different cities, that I lived in, but I claim Michigan.
Okay.
I went to.
Does Michigan claim you?
I believe so.
Okay,
I know the sports teams do. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So you got stationed at Bragg,
Yes, sir.
and you've been here for how many years?
About 5 years.
Yeah. How recently have you been deployed? How long has it been?
2014.
Okay. Any additional deployments in your immediate future?
Right now, for the next year, I'll probably be local. But there's no telling when and where. That's just the nature of this present-day military.
Mm-hmm. So you guys met by happenstance at Tractor Supply.
Correct.
Didn't know each other in the service. But something came out of that meeting, obviously.
Yes.
How long ago was that meeting? I feel like this is like the Inquisition. I don't mean to do that.
Was that late February?
Yeah.
Just building a base.
That way.
Yeah, it was late February. I would say the last weekend in February. I wanted to get a greenhouse as well because I knew that there was still some frosts. There were going to be some cold snaps were going to come about because North Carolina's,
Right. You never know.
You never know, right?
You never know.
Unpredictable at best.
Unpredictable.
Right.
They're infamous.
Don't
if you
put
will.
the begonias in May. Wait till
Right.
June.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And so I guess that was the first meeting. We exchanged numbers.
Yeah.
And then it was, the next day we started talking about a tagline. I said, what about forming a group called Grow to Heal? And Chris, I guess you can explain your reaction to that.
I did. I was driving down the road, and I just pulled over, and Stone texted me and said, "Hey, you and I have a lot in common.
Right.
This is what I was thinking about."
Uh-huh.
And when he said "grow to heal," it was like a tuning fork. It slapped me in the face because probably for up to about 2 years ago, I've been trying to think of anything. I was thinking of anything from a boys' camp set up, anything to where we could stay mobile, anything like that. But when he said it, the tagline, I was like, I found it. This is exactly what we've been looking for. And like I said, we had an instant connection right off the bat. And the one thing I noticed about Stone that I noticed in a lot of veterans, and it was almost a mirror image, was his passion for helping. We both had our demons. We both fought our demons. And we both found a common ground in ways to help others fight theirs. And it was instantaneous. I told him, I think the next text message I sent him, I said, I'm in. I said, it was within 15 seconds. I said, you name it, I'm there. And we got together out at his house, sitting on his porch.
Basically, you buy the meat, I'll provide the beer.
That's it.
And we started putting ink to paper, and it's just been history ever since.
Mm-hmm.
So
You guys are very focused. Very focused.
Yeah. Well, you've got a common spirit with a common background here. So the interesting thing to me, though, is that you were both thinking the same thing along the same lines.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many different ways of working with people who may need some support. But both of you were thinking about the gardening issue of it.
Right. And I'm sure Chris can attest to this, is that I just so happened to fall upon gardening. Yeah. No one showed me. I saw other people doing it.
Did you have any background in it at all?
No background.
Christopher, I know, does.
Right. No background. I just knew I wanted to provide fresh food at my table.
Right.
And I was spending way too much money at the grocery store. So, but I soon realized, quick little backstory. sowed a lot of the seeds. I didn't buy a lot of the Lowe's pre-grown
Right.
vegetables. I planted seeds, and I didn't believe it was going to work. I believed in Chris, but I think Chris believed more in me than I did in myself with the whole thing. And then literally a week later, I saw little buds coming out, and I came to tears. And I knew right then and there that was one of my saving graces was gardening.
Well, one of the things that both of you know now is that growing anything takes patience.
Yep.
And that's not something that comes naturally to our side of the family, where we would plant a seed and start picking around it after a day or two to see if we could see that anything was going on. And it takes patience to stand and hands off of it until it grows.
Trust.
And it's the kind of project that you guys are entering into with Operation Frontline Recovery, working with vets, trying to help them out. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to plant a seed. You're going to have kind of have hands off. Just provide growing conditions and take hands off and let the produce come in.
Exactly.
Which has happened in the past month. We just started putting feelers out there, and like as you said, we planted the seed and see what would come of it.
Right.
And we started. And one thing I noticed right off the bat is working at Tractor Supply. 40% of what I see come in there a lot of times are veterans every day, and they're all common ground type veterans. And it's funny. It's almost like it's pre-programmed. It's almost like everybody's seeking the same thing. You've been 100 miles an hour and your hair's on fire, and everything is hunky-dory. Everything's fine as long as everything's quick and everything's fast and everything's you're a robot. You know exactly what to do, when to do it. It's all muscle memory. But it's when you start slowing down, you have to find a place to refocus. You have to find something else to put your energy into. And it's funny to see how many veterans show up at Tractor Supply to do just that. And that's why when Stone and I first started talking, him and I came to tears on his back porch. Stone looked at me and he says, "Do you realize the people we're going to help this way?" And I said, "Do you realize by helping these people, we're helping us?" Yeah. At the same time.
Very well said. We're going to come back in the second set. We're going to talk more in detail about Operation Frontline Recovery. I remember, Bill, seeing that movie American Sniper.
Right.
And it did show a little bit on the screen about what it's like when you come back and you have to decompress. And I'm real curious from both of you when we come back how accurate that might have been. This is All Things Moore County. We're talking about Operation Frontline Recovery. We'll be right there.
In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house. In the middle of our street. In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our there's a crowd. There's always
Welcome back. We are talking today with Stone Hazlett, and Christopher Hurley, all about their project Operation Frontline Recovery, and being joined by Chris's uncle Bill Dunlop, a friend of ours who has been a past guest. And Bill, before I turn this over to you, because I know you want to get into the meat and the bones about the program, I made a comment at the end of the first set about the movie American Sniper, Chris, and I caught a grimace on your face. And I'm a layman, and I related it as such, but I would love to hear what you guys, why the grimace and what the thoughts were.
Because when that movie first came out, I didn't know if I wanted to see it or not.
Okay.
There were aspects of the story of the movie and everything else that hit way too close to home.
Yeah.
And the way we touched at it at the beginning of everything was there is no issue as long as you're operational. As long as everything's blowing and going and you're 100 miles an hour, your hair's on fire, you're doing your job, you're trained to do a job, and there is no issues. And if you saw in the movie when he came home, you can't flip a switch like that, and you can't go from everything to nothing that quick. So that part of the movie really struck home to me, to where it's when you slow down, you don't know how to refocus. It's like everything gets blurry for a minute. Stone and I have talked about it 100 times before, and it's funny. He was talking about his hit him when he was at the airport. Mine hit me when I was standing in Walmart one day. And when you're operational and you work in units like him and I do, if you have any kind of glitch upstairs, it's considered weakness. And it's looked as it's something you can just drink water, take a couple motion, and rock on with it. You know, you'll be fine in just a little bit. And I remember as an extremely young man, you know, hearing about PTSD, hear about suicidal thoughts, and thinking to myself, I'm like, come on, guys, just suck it up. You're all right. You know, just get through it. They're weak. You know, and until I'm standing in Walmart one day looking at the eggs and realizing I have 9 decisions on what kind of stinking eggs I want to buy.
Correct.
I'm the weak one standing there.
And so, you know, that movie did a very good job as well, because I can relate to that, and so can Chris. I know the veterans listening to us right now can relate that it's not World War II or World War I where you have to take a ship home, where it takes you a month to get home. And when you get home, there's a parade, and everybody's clapping and kissing you in the cheek. Now you got guys in Iraq and Afghanistan and other theaters around the world where you're home in 24 to 48 hours.
Right.
And the human brain is just not wired that way. The human brain is wired to survive. You adapt to your situation, and the brain thinks that you're there forever. And you hop on a plane, and all of a sudden you're getting a connection in Rhoda, Spain, or Paris, or London, and then all of a sudden you're back in Delaware or Charleston, and then you're back at your duty station, and you got a family to take care of, you have bills to pay, responsibilities that are not there when you're deployed. Your responsibilities are to take care of your team and yourself. And so I think that movie did a very good job of depicting that.
And to show the relationship between the servicemen and the civilians. Because
Correct.
the civilian, but what you guys are doing, I guess, Bill, in Operation Frontline Recovery is it's veteran to veteran. It's not veteran to civilian.
And we've talked about that before. There's nothing that'll create a bond or a tightness of a group better than standing in front of somebody and realizing they share a common ground. They've walked where you've walked. They've had the thoughts that you have. They understand where you're coming from.
Right.
And that's what we've said in the past, that anybody that's going to be related or affiliated with OFR will have like-minded backgrounds. They will have experiences they can share with people that come to us, because it's not real easy to walk up to somebody. It's like trying to go talk to a shrink or to a psychologist or whatever and talk to somebody about what you've been through, because for the most part, as much as they want to try, they don't understand. Right. You know,
and also, even these days, mental health. A guy or a gal going into a white-walled office, you know, with posters, motivational posters, and you're talking to a person one-on-one in a comfortable chair. That just right there is uncomfortable for most of us.
Yeah.
Applying mental health in a open environment outside, while you're doing an activity, having a conversation with a mental health professional, we think is going to pay dividends for these folks.
With like-minded individuals. I had a brigade commander of mine tell me one time, he says, what's with you guys? He said, I hand select you guys. I hand train you guys. I make you what you are. The minute the bullets start flying, y'all head for the woods. He said, y'all head for the fields. He said, every one of y'all disappear into yourselves. He said, you become hermits. You have a garden, you have chickens, you have everything going on for you. And he goes, is it pre-wired? I think it is. I honestly think it is. Stone, his garden out there, him and I can go out there right now, and we'll disappear for hours. I mean, we'll look up and we're like, Jesus, the sun going down? I mean, we've been out here for hours because we're comfortable because of what we have in common. And it's something you can do, get your hands dirty, put a seed in the ground, see life come from it, but at the end of the day, turn around and say, guess what? See what I've done. Mm-hmm. You know, it's when you have too much time to yourself and it's too quiet and you're by yourself where the problems start showing up.
I'm going to make a comment right there that I think has something to do with it. Perhaps you guys tell me if I'm right or wrong. You're talking about gardening and growing, so what you're doing is you're producing something. You're producing life, basically. I mean, if we'll take it, we'll say producing life. And what you're doing, to me, is getting away from the taking life.
Absolutely.
Part of it, and getting back to producing some. You know, what is the military shoots people and breaks stuff.
Right, and it's absolutely liberating, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we want to take that and reverse it and make it liberating for these individuals to grow something and see the effects of it. So I think that's spot on.
And our American fighting men and women, period, there's none better in the world. We are who we are. And because of the training and because of the love of our country that our American fighting men and women have, when everything's over and done with, they need something to put their focus into.
Yes.
It's a refocusing. It's not. Everything's become so easy for so long, and it's become robotic, that when it's time and it's over and done with, that refocusing becomes hard. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you find yourself out. You're no longer in the service anymore, and you're like, well, wait a minute, what I used to do, that's not quite legal where I'm here now. And it used to be so easy. And what better to do that than to break the ground, to plant a seed, and basically have everything come full circle.
Okay. Now, let's get back to one other thing. You were talking about being able to relate to and talk to and find common ground with people who have a background. And I'm going to bring up something. My dad was a World War II veteran. He was in the Pacific during the Second War, fighting the Japanese and so forth. And I know Christopher and my dad had a bond that, you know, I wasn't part of it, didn't want to be part of it. I didn't have that common ground. I didn't ask him about it, but I knew that they had conversations. And I knew that Christopher, having the love for his grandfather that he did, but also that bond of having been in war, with wartime experiences, that they had something there that only another veteran. And so what you guys are doing is you're providing that same sort of common ground where these guys.
Fellowship.
Exactly.
Yeah, fellowship, and I can relate the same thing. My dad was Army, West Point grad. My uncle, retired lieutenant colonel. You know, and my aunt got out as a captain. So, and we have those conversations, and then other family members do not have those conversations.
Right.
And it's very relieving to have those conversations with those folks. And so I can't imagine a guy getting out and going to the corporate America, the guy that goes up to Raleigh and just decides to get a job and has no one to relate to. Because one thing that my dad told me before I went to basic, he said, and this is paraphrasing here, but he basically said, you're about to embark on a journey that you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. And once it happens, and once you're in, no one can ever take it away from you. Mm-hmm. Once you put that uniform on, it's never coming off. Mm-hmm. And no one can ever take that away from you. So I can't imagine these guys and gals that get out, and they're proud of their service. And they have so many experiences and so many good and bad situations that they can't talk about. They need to talk about it, but they have no way to talk about it, and relating is the only way for them to do that.
You guys are painting a picture, a word picture for me. I'm thinking of people who have come back from service, who have retired, who are walking around, who are trying to accommodate themselves back into society normally, but might not have an avenue to talk to somebody else, and they stand alone. You're trying to provide a net for them to come into, almost like a support group.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what OFR is.
Uh-huh.
Stone and I, and a lot of our veterans that are listening right now, if you ever watch, you get a crowded room. You got a crowded room of 20, 30 people, and you have 1 or 2 veterans in it. They're going to find each other. I don't know how it is. I don't know if it's magnetic, but they're going to find each other.
Wow,
and for the most part, you'll see the wallflower. The veteran will be standing off to the side, while everybody's mingling and everything else. But get a room of veterans. You'll have more humor and anything else, because instantly they relax. And what we're trying to do with OFR is create that same thing. If you're having issues, come to us. If you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and the world's just getting too heavy for you, come to us.
Let's get to something here real quickly as we're winding down this part of the segment. We're talking about finding this common ground and being able to speak to each other as brothers on this. Let's get down to PTSD, that issue, and also the fact that there are right now, I think, an average of 22 suicides a day.
So I just like to give some raw numbers here real quick that just shows how steep the situation really is in the United States. So 2013, 147,763 suicides reported in 21 states. That's only 21 states. Of those, that large number I just said, 27,062, or 18.3%, were veterans or reported military history. That doesn't even include attempted suicide, unsuccessful suicide. The other 29 states are not even involved in that analysis. That analysis was done by the VA from death records. I went online over the past few months to do some research to find out what the current numbers are, and there are none, which is very unsettling. Once you separate the military, you're not tracked anymore. You get your DD 214, and then you're out, and you disappear. The government's no longer tracking you. If you have a problem, you go to the VA, now you're tracked. So, also, the rates are the highest the first 3 years of separation, which makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's like divorce, isn't it?
It is. It's that transition period.
That separation, it's almost like a divorce.
So, and I think PTSD, for a lot of these situations, are the beginning stage of the end state suicide or attempted suicide. That's the research that I've done. I've known a few individuals that were not successful. They never even attempted it, but they had suicidal thoughts. And a year before that, they were having anger issues. They were having blow-ups, a few domestic violence issues, which is huge into the PTSD realm. So, anyways, Chris, you can touch on it.
Without a doubt. Talked to a guy about 3 weeks ago. He was a vet for about 9 years. He's just recently got back. He's been back for about a month, and he was having anger issues. In fact, it was his wife that contacted me through one of our business cards, and she said, "Can you please talk to him? He's been drinking for 48 hours straight, and can you please, maybe you can reach him?" Well, I get over there, and right off the bat, he doesn't know me. He doesn't know who I am, so the aggression is there. The anger is there. Within about 2 hours after everything's calmed down and everything else, his head is on my shoulders, and he's in tears, and he says, "You don't understand. I'm mad." He said, "I am just absolutely mad, and I used to have something to pour that into." He says, "My kids deserve better. My wife deserves better." And he says, "I'm just angry." He goes, "I wake up angry." He said, "Everything makes me mad." And he said, "I go to the hospital or whatever, and they want to hand me a packet of, medication. They want to hand me a prescription. He said, pills don't fix everything. He says, I'm just mad. Yeah. And instantly, I related because I've been there. I mean, there's days that I'm still there. Stone and I check up on each other, shoot daily.
Twice a day.
Easily. You know, because he texted me yesterday and he said, talk to me, brother, you're off. I said, I'm okay. I said, I'm working on it. Some days are better than others.
Well, we live in a prescription America, where pills are the first thing that you take.
Right.
I've talked to a lot of vets, a lot of guys and gals that are tired of taking medication that alter their behavior and mood. Unless you have a chemical imbalance in your brain,
right.
In my opinion, the docs should be working harder at the VA to fix these individuals to get them on the right track. Yeah. You're never not going to have PTSD. Right. PTSD is always going to be there.
And there's a 3,000-year-old saying that only the dead have seen the end of war. And that's the honest truth. So as long as there's war, there's combat stress, there's battle fatigue, there's PTSD is what we call it now. But as long as there's strife, it's going to be there.
We're going to come back in the third set, talking about Operation Frontline Recovery, and this is an eye-opening conversation. You two guys are very compelling spokespeople. You're making a great case, making it come to life. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back.
Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed. Our house in the middle of our street. Our house. In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crown.
Welcome back to our third and final set. Operation Frontline Recovery is our topic today, and it's a very moving topic, actually. And time is short. We could probably extend the show another 30 or 40 minutes, and might possibly want to have you gentlemen both back on the show down the road. I know Bill wants to talk to you a lot about some of the things about the benefits that you're offering, fundraisers, contact information, kind of logistics that are necessary to get the word out, Bill.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what you're planning to provide for your clients, what Operation Frontline Recovery is going to provide. Tell me a little bit about your facilities, your activities. How are you going to follow up with these gentlemen after they go through your program, or will this be a continuous thing?
This is something that when we first started off, first and foremost, we wanted to come up with a physical location that was different than anything else around there, to where, like we said before, vets have a place to come. We're currently right now in the process of securing 108 acres out in Cameron. And the neat thing about it is, if you look on the map, it's roughly a mile of river frontage, Little Hook River, backed up to the reservation. We're looking to have 20 single-man cabins along that area down that way. So when you come up, you come to me with nothing. We provide you with meals, we provide you with a place to sleep, and we provide you with activities to learn from, everything from a greenhouse to aquaponics to beekeeping to farming to composting, everything, whatever you want to learn.
Chicken hatchery.
Exactly. Yeah, don't forget our chickens. But we're looking for a physical location to do that right now. We're currently securing that as we're speaking. Stone right here has just started the whole farming aspect of things, and just within a matter of 2 months period of time, he's a different man. So it's something we want to instill in others, and it's helped us, and we want to help them.
Okay. Now, I understand that that you're going to build these facilities. This is all future. You're planning this. This is starting to happen. So toward the end of the segment, we'll have website, Facebook page, telephone number where they can get in touch with you if there's anyone who can help you make that happen. All right. Who's going to work with your clients? I know you're going to have a cadre dedicated to it. What about outside expertise? What about volunteers? What are your plans there?
So we're going to run this a lot like active duty military. So there's going to be different branches of the help that we're going to have. So we're going to have the command team, which is going to be the founders, and then the project manager. We actually found a couple different guys that we're vetting right now to see which one would have a better fit as the project manager position. He's going to be full-time, and he's going to be basically the manager of the farm. With that, we're also going to have a resiliency team. So resiliency is a new thing that's happening on base with a lot of different units, where it has the social worker, counselor, the psych doc, and the chaplain. And I've already actually found 2 individuals that are going to assist us in that portion of the movement. Also, we're going to have active duty and past, guys that have separated or retired to be working as cadre, to be guys that are there, not really tending to the farm per se, but they're tending to the people. They're there as support, and for guys to lean on, to be those guys that direct the guys that need help. Direct them in the direction they need to be directed in. I said direct a lot of times there, didn't I, Bill?
To provide that structure.
Right.
So we're going to have the cadre, and then we are going to have we already do have a large, over 100 volunteers that are just willing to be the strong backs to pick things up and put things down, to being farm hands, to helping with the building of the houses, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a fundraising is something that will have to be in your future, and
Yes.
getting the word out. Do you have a lot of plans and how you're going to reach out to the community?
We do. We just reached out, and we've just secured a grant writer who's going to help us out with that aspect of things too, because we put in for 7 grants, and a lot of it are asking questions that are above our pay grade.
Right.
Somebody we need expertise in. We have equine fundraisers showing up. We have a guy. I have a gentleman that comes in and Tractor Supply all the time from the gun club. He wants to throw us a fundraiser coming up. Stone has partnered with Triangle Wine Company there, which is throwing us a fundraiser this Friday on the 1st of July.
Right.
But it's definitely starting to get legs.
You guys are going to be forced to think outside the box. We have a lot of nonprofits in Moore County who have come in and spoken on the show, and a lot of fundraisers that go on. There might be some contact people I can put you guys in touch with to get the wheels turning.
Awesome.
People that are networked here, because it's such a giving community. The one thing, in looking back at that pilot article, the one sentence that stands out to me, and suicide is more likely than combat death for veterans. That's a stunning sentence, but that's the reality, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
That takes your breath away. So what you have in front of you is a more than just a noble cause. I mean, you're trying to save lives.
Correct. I mean, it's something that everybody wants to do. It's just a lot of people don't know how to do it.
Right.
And the only way that you fix a problem is you begin. You start.
Yeah.
That's what engineers do. That's what scientists do. That's what military members do. You begin.
And that's
what mathematicians do. You begin.
That's why such a physical location is crucial, because you wake up in the middle of the night and those thoughts hit you, or you don't have any other place to turn. You come to us. I mean, if we can just drop that by 1%, we're doing something. Of course, we're looking for something a lot greater than 1%. But right now, there's not a location where service members that are having their demons attack them hard, they don't have a place to go. And guess what? Come to us. We'll put you to work. We'll teach you something new.
Is a general feeling amongst retired veterans or even active veterans when they come back that the government has let them down? Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely,
without a doubt.
Absolutely, it's from guys that have medical issues where they're putting on a waiting list at the VA for 6 months. When these guys have cancer, you have veterans that are dying. You have guys that have extremely bad mental issues. We had a suicide in January. A guy that was out of the Army for about, I believe, 12 years. Don't quote me on that, but and he went to the VA multiple times to get help, and they kept directing him. They kept giving him the runaround because he wasn't diagnosed with PTSD originally. He didn't claim it, but now he's having issues. And his mother was interviewed, and she saw him completely deteriorate. And if the VA attacked it and helped him originally, he'd probably still be alive.
Do you have a Facebook page yet?
We do. It's facebook.com/Operation Frontline Recovery. It's all one word.
Okay. We're gonna put in the synopsis that we post with this podcast. We want to put as much information as we can. Google's a funny thing. You've put the right search words in the verbiage, people find it. And so we want to be careful as to how we write it so that it helps to serve as a catalyst to reach people. So you have a Facebook page.
Yep.
And is there contact numbers that people can reach you?
Yes. So my cell phone, Stone Hazlett, it's 910-797-9942. And Chris?
My cell phone is Chris Hurley. It's 910-975-1980. And Stone will say this as much as I will. Those cell phones never get turned off.
Right, they're 24/7.
Yep, it's
24/7,
365.
It goes without saying. Give me your Facebook page again.
It's facebook.com/Operation Frontline Recovery. And then we also have a website that's is up and running. It's growtoheal.org. Again, that website is growtoheal.org.
Okay, and people can also go online if they want to the pilot.
Correct.
And they can go back just a couple of weeks. The article about the therapeutic gardening plan came out in Wednesday's edition on June the 15th. We'll post that in the synopsis as well.
There was a television interview, too, with Time Warner. And is the link posted on your Facebook?
Yeah, the link is on our page as well.
Okay.
And the author of that, her name is Catherine Gigi. She'll probably be mad if I pronounce that wrong, but she'll forgive me. But Catherine Gigi, she's one of the workers with Time Warner Cable that reached out to us.
Okay.
So
what you're starting, this is not about personal gain. This is not about financial gain. This is about sharing and giving back to others. And in the same way, Chris, as you said, giving back to yourselves.
Being our brother's keeper.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's a good thing when you're about the other person, rather than about yourself. But sharing a common ground helps people. You want to get everybody reprogrammed. You want to get them to accommodate to the changes. The mind is a funny thing. It keeps going back to its old habits, and you're trying to break that. Do you guys ever hear of the book, The Power of Now? Have you? Yeah. Have you read it?
I believe I heard it. I have not read it.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, if you can read that book, if you are genuinely in the now, in the moment, it's impossible to think anywhere other than the moment that you're in. You can't look forward. You can't look back. It sounds so easy, I know.
It's like when we disappear in the garden.
Right, and the funny thing is when we first got this thing going, I was terrified because once the media grabbed a hold of us, it was like putting our feet to the fire. Now we have to succeed at this. But once we started getting contacted by hundreds of veterans, we realized that this thing really is going to...
Your reach is way beyond more counties.
We mentioned it for 10 seconds. We mentioned it for 10 seconds. And people are sitting there saying, here, give me your hand. I'm going to write my number on your hand. call me. I'm ready to go.
Well, you guys are the spark.
Yeah.
You just manage the flame wisely.
That's right.
Absolutely. That's what we're actively doing right now as we speak.
Bill Dunlop, thanks for coming and organizing the show on Operation Frontline Recovery and bringing your nephew in who he watches after you, Chris. And Stone, want to thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
And wish you guys the best. And we should have you back, and I want to introduce you to Dr. Marshall, and whatever we can do to help, we would love to. Operation Frontline Recovery, look for it on Facebook, read the article in the pilot. There's a need for this, and it's about time that we had somebody come step forward and talk about it. It's July 4th. Look at this weekend with a perspective maybe different than you might have prior to listening to Chris and Stone. Have a good week. Thank you.